I'm here today to address the housing hell that Justin Trudeau and the NDP have unleashed on Vancouver and on all of Canada. After 8 years of Justin Trudeau and the NDP, housing costs have doubled, rent has doubled, mortgage payments have doubled, the needed down payment doubled. After 8 years of Trudeau and the NDP, housing in Canada costs 50 to 75% more than in the United States. After 8 years of Justin Trudeau, Vancouver is the third most unaffordable housing market in the world when you compare median income to median house price. Worse than New York City, worse than London, worse than Paris, worse than Singapore, a tiny island with 2,000 times more people per square kilometer than Canada. After 8 years of Trudeau and the NDP, UBS says that UBS says that Toronto is the worst housing bubble in the world, and Vancouver is the sixth. When I was housing minister, neither of them even registered on the list. After 8 years of Justin Trudeau, 9 in 10 young people say they will never be able to afford a home. After 8 years of Justin Trudeau, we see tent cities popping up in all manner of places where they never existed before. After 8 years of Justin Trudeau and the NDP, you can buy a castle in Sweden for less than the cost of a two-bedroom in Kitchener. After 8 years of Justin Trudeau, we are building fewer houses than we did in 1972. That's right. In 1972, with 22 million people, we built 232,000 homes. Last year, we built 219,000. And this year, housing construction is down again 32% over the year before it. Why is it that we can't build affordable homes in Canada? Well, one of the causes is the inflationary deficits of the Trudeau NDP coalition that drive up interest rates on mortgage borrowers and on builders of rental properties. The second reason is that the taxes and bureaucracy prevent construction. For example, here in Vancouver, local government delays, fees, zoning, permits, site plans, consultants, lawyers, and countless other costs add $1.3 million to the cost of every newly built home. In Toronto, it's $350,000. Montreal blocked 24,000 units of housing with its bureaucracy, and Winnipeg had to be slapped down by the courts because they tried to block housing right next to transit stations. And what does Justin Trudeau do? He favors the very bureaucrats who block home building. He funds the gatekeepers. We don't need to build more bureaucracy. Yet yesterday, Trudeau announced for the first time, first announcement on his year-and-a-half-old Accelerator Fund. He created an Accelerator Fund that takes a year and a half just to get the paperwork done. That sounds like a decelerator fund. Not only that, he says that this announcement of $72 million is going to build 2,000 homes in London. London was already scheduled to build 6,000. So there's no new housing from this big dollop of cash. There's just more bureaucracy. That's why Pierre Poilievre-led government will act with common sense to get things built. And today I announce that this Monday I will introduce in the House of Commons the Building Homes, Not Bureaucracy Act. And that act will have 6 measures. 1, it will require cities permit 15% more home building per year or lose federal grants. Those that build more than 15% in extra home building will get a building bonus. This will be based on a strict mathematical formula. If you exceed your building target by 1%, your funding goes up 1%. If you miss your target by 1%, your target goes down 1%. More home building, more money. Less home building, less money. It'll be a highly predictable mathematical formula that cities will be able to follow however they like. They might speed up permits or site plans or remove steps. They might sell off municipal land. They might reduce development charges. They can do it however they want. They have strict autonomy in how they do it, but they must do it to get federal money because I will not pay them to build up their bureaucracies anymore. Furthermore, my common sense plan will require high-density housing right next to transit stations. Look at this appalling scene behind me today. Look at this. Just take a moment. What do you see here? You see a transit station. Where's the housing? So we're spending billions of dollars on transit stations across the country where there are no people allowed to live. If I were to fund this transit station, I would put the money in a trust. And I would say to the city of Vancouver, you get the money when the apartments are built next to the transit station and the people are occupying it. And that is in my bill. Very simply, you want federal money for transit, you have to approve high-rise apartments so that our seniors and students can live right next to the bus and train. That's good for the environment. Folks can jump on transit powered by hydroelectricity instead of having to drive a car. Furthermore, folks who are of lower income don't even have to own a car if they can live next to transit. That's what helped me through university. My dad had an apartment next to Heritage Station in Calgary, so I could hop on the train and head all the way to university. Fourth, my Building Homes and Not Bureaucracy Act will bring in a NIMBYism penalty. If municipalities block housing the way Winnipeg blocked it right next to transit, I will bring in a fine. They will lose part of their federal transfer, and those fines will be very serious at the discretion of the minister. But to counter that, we'll bring in a super bonus, particularly for small towns that allow massive buildups of housing in their communities. But you know who won't be getting bonuses? CMHC bureaucrats that delay approval for housing financing. The Trudeau government has ballooned the bureaucracy at the CMHC, paying out millions of dollars in bonuses for the very bureaucrats who have helped double the cost of housing. I'll be slashing all of their bonuses, and they will be getting pay cuts unless they meet the target of approving financing for affordable housing in under 60 days. Next, we will axe the tax on new housing construction. This bill will eliminate the GST on affordable apartment complexes. That is to say, apartments where the rent is below market average. Now, Justin Trudeau promised to do this 8 years ago. 6 years ago, he said, just kidding, promise broken. And now, this morning, just as he got wind that this was going to be in my bill, he's flip-flopped again, and he expects you to believe it. If Justin Trudeau is serious about axing the tax on housing construction, then he'll back my common sense Building Homes, Not Bureaucracy Act, which does exactly that. And finally, this bill will require the federal government to sell off 15% of its buildings and thousands of acres of federal land so that we can build homes that you can afford. This is a common sense plan to build homes, not bureaucracy. After 8 years of Trudeau doubling the cost, I'm the one that can fix it. I am the one that delivered housing costs that are half of what they are today back when I was minister. And we're going to have an even better result when I'm Prime Minister. But in the medium term, we must act quickly. And I call on the Prime Minister and the NDP to put aside petty partisanship, acknowledge that they have failed, and support my law, the Building Homes, Not Bureaucracy Act, so that Canadians can once again put roof overhead. And here's the choice: a common-sense Conservative government that frees Canadians to earn powerful paychecks that buy affordable gas, food, and homes and safe streets, or a reckless and costly coalition of the NDP and Liberals that take your money, punish your work, tax your food, double your housing bill, and unleash crime and chaos in your community. That's the choice. But until that choice happens, let's get to work building homes, not bureaucracy. Thank you.
Okay, Hey, Ethan from CBC. Yesterday, the government announced it reached a deal with the City of London worth $74 million to create more rental units. The Prime Minister said this is a solvable problem and cities need to remove red tape and barriers around zoning. How important to you is the role of cities in solving the housing issue? And can I get an answer in French as well?
Of course. So thank you very much for your question. So let's start with the program name. Trudeau calls this the Accelerator Fund. It took him a year and a half just to take the paperwork from the cities. Does that sound like acceleration to you? A year and a half of paperwork and not a single house built since it was announced in the spring of 2022. Not only that, yesterday he said his announcement of 74 million would bring 2,000 homes in London. They were already planning to build 6,000. So it's actually less homes than the city was already going to build. What this is a photo op fund. It allows Justin Trudeau to show up in places where housing was already being built with a check to do a photo op. We don't need photo ops. We need a mathematical formula that gives more money to cities that build more homes and less money to municipalities that block homes. And that's what I propose. You increase home building 1% above the target, you get a 1% increase in your federal infrastructure money. You come in at 1% below the target, you get a 1% reduction. So it is a scalable incentive that gets the local government gatekeepers out of the way to build homes that you can afford.
Oui, Edouard pour Radio-Canada. Pour revenir sur...
So from Radio-Canada, to come back to housing, you're accusing the government of dragging their feet, but municipalities are saying that it is the provinces that have to remove the obstacles to construction. So for you, what is the role of the provincial governments in helping solving this housing crisis? Very good question. I think that municipalities are the creatures of provinces, and I therefore incite the provincial governments to adopt laws that will encourage construction with less bureaucracy. What we're targeting here is incentives to municipalities in my bill, building housing and not bureaucracy. But we also have to provide incentives to provinces so they will adjust their laws about construction permits. For example, yesterday, or the day before yesterday, I talked to Seymour Construction. They had to wait 8 months just for the entrance, like the one I'm pointing to their apartment building. It took them 8 months for no good reason. It wasn't even a controversial issue. So that's costly, these obstacles. From the three levels of government. From the municipal level, it's permitting. At the provincial level, there are other obstacles. And finally, at the federal level, it's the Canadian Housing and Mortgage and Housing Corporation. It takes quite a lot of time to approve the financing for builders. So we have to get rid of that bureaucracy at all levels of government.